Ashasi eniriye nyami obinti se uye nyami mu nyami wadi ousunkuni nyami uye kesi ni alpha wa ni omega ashasi eniriye nyami obinti se nyami uye nyami mu nyami wadi ousunkuni nyami uye kesi semishe adie nyami aya usasida semidimi mo nyami alpha na omega osuri asasi obiere ni wada alpha omega nyami uye kesi semishe adie nyami aya usasida semidimi mo nyami alpha na omega obieni wonti se unyami uye alpha uni omega uye kesi eja ufata wati osaye ufata osaye bisidemi komfo bisidemi wasu ijonya mi se aye ijonya mi se osaye bisidemi komfo bisidemi wasu ijonya mi se aye ijonya mi se semishe adie nyami aya usasida semidimi titibuta nyami alpha na omega usuria abrobotu nyami ni alpha omega nyami uye kesi semishe adie nyami aya usasida semidimi mo nyami alpha na omega usuria asasi obiere ni wada alpha omega nyami uye kesi eja ufata wati osaye
yo enyumre ye bema ye nyina ye ho akwa basronko aba ye dwumadi a osofo hyase efiada etwam no dwumadi a wato ni din say climate change and international Sunday law enche bia osofo beba na afi wodi dwumadi no abetwa so amaye ansana no ye besre yenua Kesmet a wo chenchim fidie ni maye na afi no wode anyom bako asan edi anim amaye afi owia ya bompaye na ya hye na ase enti brother Kesmet ye besrew na afi wato aso edi anyom bako edi anim amaye.
Better if you put your man never shiny and you. Hallelujah. David, Nick Goliath, and Cocoa. I shall see Fred and see. No one in the Radia Yamano. Was the Abraham Metana was Rasuno? And Muabai. This is a Baya. Mikuna. Data Baya Mikuno. Nangamia, the Matia Mamadin Criminal. Betty Mabuamima. Hallelujah. Madam City and Pedro City. Miss me, any parties. Radia Quama, you're ready, what you did. Nakuko and him Nakunim dear or hot. Aye, don't look so. Madam City. Radia, mammy. When you penny now, was said, Shasi swearing to me, right? Everybody so see how I woman me now. I am mommy obey my one pie. Your car, your leaves. Don't worry. Madam City,
Yo, Yamema, Yabema, Yina, Yahon, Ajo, Ebio, Abba, and Yumre, Jumedia, so session 2, and I said, near Tosumi, nu, I shall see a year, a fiadano, and also for a twasso, Amaya, and Yumre, also for Yabema, or Aqua Bastronco, Abba, and Yumre, Jumedia, so.
Yeah,
Sure, we hope saying Yamia, the Mundia, which I need now, Mohoye.
Yamiadum,
Yamiasepa, Yenche, Bacho. Yo, yen chair who crowd, your best stress, Mama, you see a trust in our more empire, a briar toward you, median, so Mama, you see a trust in Mompire. Yeneja was through and you bray, Yadawa Sibe Bray, a quenya from Qua, what they are doom ye bio, Yadawa Seosa, the Ashen, I watching for from a moon and wadum so at you and him actually the moon. What the Akoya Nantis Yahudu us in all our endeavors, you've protected us. Baby a koye bia who granted your travel mercy, and you rain so where yesu dim would the yeshiemu asum dream. Yet I was say one semwa unamwa quaso a day air dummy and you bray a source a kawaquaho, and my home concron and yen wordman funny so and cassa and tre was safumba. Now you may gain our query ya Yahoo and your pesa will my free mono. Yes, so sefa for quaso dummy, yes, so shiny day. Na Kenyans when they see a yamajumedia and the true the CCM was so Maya Tosumi. Yada was civil brace with tea and pipe over Yesu Christo Dimo. Amen.
Amen.
Yo, Pastor, and so now we call and net Jumedia sweet. So far, if you are done, everybody no say Bia will be first time near what joining yen. Was a babe to a Jumedia so a pobe pa and an hour per se yen jinaso. You bet me as I carry adwene so and I believe you have a so train adwene so na ke gina so e de ho share enade yi mu.
Okay, me da say oda. Se wo hwe trosem a Bible amaye hu se nyame nye bibia chi se wadane di e de akire ne nko adi fu ansa. Fortunately for us no, nyame adane chi mu po adi e wona asemu. Na wo kan edi sem a na wo call Revelation chapter 13 and 14 na Wamaye who say the final crisis about worship. Many people did not believe. Because baby we are see do na omun adwenya omu say the final crisis about we are seeing now can be related to worship. Na is so interesting say your dynamics via bonsam and say nema history take shape. Now, one of these dynamics known as climate. The focal pointer. Can we see boom to fight a common cause? Now, at the heart of climate change, is the issue of worship. Any a day of worship, any Sabbath, any sa and yamano. If you quire a near carbon, a few three different angles, I won't for wide dream bua. Ni na kwako wie ewo worship no is so amazing. Na enona no there are so many evidences to say these things are taking shape within our eyes. Na ose nyame mma yeni ebaso na yehu de ekoso nyina enti ye twa adwensi so na ye dia confirm say Bible si Yesu beba de di kan ekinye bi ni ho de tosu mienu so no every single detail bi odi amayen say papacy obeko form na obeba in fact ye wade bi a omo use no occult mu a it is also appearing in these things I beka was metre almost is like the phoenix rising out of the ashes, which is a symbol of Lucifer or rising up of the ashes. And he said who sa niema we nyina ekoso a na say the very things krosema kan ye din komjaka and then ye chino ya sum ye hunu ye nisu a e wo se nyamemba ye ni baso na ye da ye ho so the important thing ye say enye speculation keke ba mi nuanom say nyamemba ye hu pa say niema o kan ni be mu a naturally say also obeba bie no oba ntem so a eye no kure enti o say yesiesie ho e de kwen no na yesiesie afoforo nso na ye ni omo share e mo omo nso hu de ekoso na omo nso are ready for the second coming of Christ.
O ka say ebesiesie yen na ebesiesie afoforo enti na je say trimu popa de ekoso nyina sa ne me ekoso enti na ugiri say yen de enti na ehu hia ma ye say yesua anase yete sa ne me kra isan say these are terms ekoso climate change ahonidie ene ewia ne enyunu ne ohyew adentina esese se me onipa na me wasase su ani titru me da kwanhwani a esese ne me efa ye ho.
Okay, enema mienu Yesu ka sembi ewo look every hour can ne me bedi ne mba ye ne no o say we besi Luke 21. Now obey no ka say when these things begin to happen, lift up your eyes or your head because your redemption draweth nigh. It is very significant there are elements be Jesus said say we badia mumpejabuti. First of all, you have to watch out for these signs. And you say these signs in order to know you have to watch out for them. And I'm say the next step you say or say lift up your eyes. Adam you say and yes we page our physical eyes because you only for years today. But lift up your eyes nature say agwene any unshishe yina no shase for ni nyina so said the Bible didn't can say yem for ye ninsi so but to the bia we are distracted. But Jesus say a double caution. So who say nema makani bemu dia then madam for and you may be another keep you busy no forget about it and begin to focus on heavenly things and now lift up your eyes for the coming of the Son of Man. And ye say you who says manu cosway demu dia and it is high time say you be peja yeni na ya focus on the second coming of Christ and you may related and say who ye juma because a juma eye entia nyamesom. In fact, yes beba no not different people eye engaged in different spheres. Ebi mpa na obi wo classroom, ebi na obi wo fuom, ebi na obi wo, it doesn't matter. But the idea say we are so prepared and we are so in tune with the Lord to say baby or baby bia ya wo bia no we are prepared. And that is the most important thing a person disuedi adwin na kosiso.
Yeah, that's pastor what just few sentences be mono and then enumre wo pese ye nye free addition me na say there na expect say o de bre enumre e bra wo ba beto aso e de amayen no
enumre de no baby a ye de kwako wie ye say last week no and as a Friday kwem no ye hwe sa Laudato Si no ye hwe what is climate change ye kan wase no and Laudato Si no and I shall say you can kind point by point. There is a last point a young kind. So last point, you know, and no enna near many chassis. Ah, ye babekai, yen kai say. And yema or more pushing in no, they are not necessarily wrong. And yen yema bonnet. And yema pa, and ye dibi frame. This is not the first time I chassis. In the 1800s. Getting to the early part of the 1900s now you will be a friend said the Temperance movement. Now the Temperance movement now you related to alcohol any Sunday morning now your pioneers now no more tias yet send the white mono woman so the Jesus Temperance movement because we say we also stand for health principles by your wadebia na a bata we could not buy into them. Na ebia mamin ready sadie no ansana get it back to you for your final idea to us because yankai who say the devil is clever na no operating on deceptions and you know the devil will never present something good and not something bad black and white name no ofa de bia eye papa and no the attractive then na ne de ka ho no or the ashase Etimami read this statement to be a what a great controversy. A bra temperance movement shall say Obiabeka Sebinia, say temperance movement dear yadepa, by now will be a dear fremo. And nona if was a need a hole, because the devil will always take something good and idea or befano a year good no, na wodi bibi aba be frame enti no mami enredi bibi on kwanya of far so package ni niema no ene caution na ewom bajo home screen no
Pacho you who desktop ne so.
okay me bajo me ba
Sure.
okay I think say now I have it on screen.
Good.
Bajo home
Pacho ane.
okay to one say okay great controversy page 587 I'll see here the temperance work, one of the most prominent and important of moral reforms, is often combined with the Sunday movement, and the advocates of the latter represent themselves as laboring to promote the highest interest of society, and those who refuse to unite with them are denounced as the enemies of temperance and reform. And you know, this was the temperance worker, not just say, Obiano, a person, Obewo on board, that conference, we believed in that. But Omo pushing, they were clever. It was more than temperance work. But almost the Sunday movement, so they can't home. As Sunday, no, they were pushing that as the true Sabbath. And you know, a didn't come share essay. Yenye very careful na nyamema and white ehu sa enyema no edan edi chere and say there be adeno there is something good by bibi but actually entimunye very careful na eno na oto aso o ka say the fact that a movement to establish error is connected with a work which is in itself good is not an argument in favor of the error. We may disguise poison by mingling it with wholesome food, but we do not change its nature. On the contrary, it is rendered more dangerous as it is more likely to be taken unawares. And in what she was saying here said, temperance movement, yenjai alcohol nom, na ye body no any strong. It is good. But this was something na this Sunday movement akahon. Now I say so far the pa now the idea ye bone kahon or say a more dangerous. If we say obi no more na dream ban also because papa ne bone na diafra. And what was say it is one of Satan's devices to combine with falsehood just enough truth to give it plausibility. The leaders of the Sunday movement may advocate reforms which the people need, principles which are in harmony with the Bible, yet while there is with these a requirement which is contrary to God's law, his servants cannot unite with them. Nothing can justify them in setting aside the commandments of God for the precepts of men. And you know, na me di adwene kwa kodina so say, yes, you can say pollution is pollution bad? Yes, pollution is bad. Christo ni bia na e was said yes say obe avoid it and never contribute to pollution within your means. The issue is not that. Those are near be anymore. Ye capture the pen in to champion a common thing. But the poison no and then never can was no a cat no it's not at the forefront but behind yes Sunday movement no bekan was semi we no so then I will talk about the reception of the encyclical. A brass paper bad here about we are saying the leaders what we are saying United Nations organizations, United States of America, the Queen of England, and I say in race which him any in call for any more a one home and your monk one more we are seeing now so to say World Bank and International Monetary Fund and it's our organizations in how did they receive some message? Now it will blow your mind to say, okay, Bible mua Babylon, our components, at least baby and or say commercial components. Now you will see the banks all behind this, and the kings of this world, you will see them behind this, and you will see religion, and to the religious component, the commercial component, and then the ahinie NSA kingly component no nina into play. And the reception of the encyclical, the religious components are Hindus, Buddhists, Ikromofo, anyone more traditionality say, Yebeka say, traditional and domestic religions, Omuna also on board. But that will be too much information. I will talk about that another time. But then the last part, any kwanya the world community I accept any baby I babedu.
Also for that, we can't wait for such a message. Yempai bon say, Yame hon konkron fa so na fe ondai and yemedi trade. Yebesro na what was so ediamai yamin count.
Okay, and yamedasipa na baby me pese me ka and who asem CCA na the bien pese ye ka ho asem CCA na eboa ye ma ye nya perspective nyame ya adomo a ye frɛ bi sɛ COP26 sa COP26 no sa climate change a ye ka ho asem yi no ebra ladato si ba ye 2015 no sa ye na the kings of this world omu na ahyia ye United Nations na omu ye sa Paris Accord no na 5 years and almost set a target. Say they will review. Nyamiya domwa afia ye remu ombe review sa adieno na omo afia kwanya ombe faswa. They will make it more urgent because you see in your climate emergency. Mentima memo sa video yi na yenhwe kwanya and also take shape as they prepare for the next level. No me ye o na ma wo hu say adia yesu yane ande ye hwe ho asem no. This is at the forefront of the global world now. All the powers that be no and normally can was and to 2 minutes short video if we are now ya pick it up from there na ya tuaso.
Join the dots. It's happening. It's happening in your world. It's happening in my world. A plea to global leaders to deliver ambitious new promises to save the planet. The virtual Climate Ambition Summit signals the starting gun on 12 months of intensive diplomacy ahead of next year's landmark COP26 climate conference hosted by the UK.
We're doing this not because we're hair shirt wearing, tree-hugging, mung bean munching eco-freaks. So I've got nothing against any of those categories, and mung beans are probably delicious. We're doing it because we know that scientific advances will allow us, collectively, as humanity, to save our planet and create millions of high-skilled jobs.
Britain has already pledged to cut its emissions by 68% by 2030 compared to 1990 levels. Now it's encouraging others to follow suit.
Mountains and rivers green are mountains of silver and gold.
One by one, dozens of leaders came forward to outline new climate commitments.
To all my fellow residents of this planet, I make a solemn pledge today. Centennial India will not only meet its own targets, but will also exceed your expectations.
From renewables in India to ending new coal power plants in Pakistan, even the Pope made a video contribution.
The Vatican City has committed to reducing net emissions to zero by 2050, stepping up efforts in environmental management that were launched a few years ago.
In 2015 in Paris, countries agreed to try to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. 5 years on, countries like Australia, which has experienced searing temperatures and bushfires, were noticeably absent from the list of speakers.
It's the club that everyone is in, and the beauty of the Paris Agreement is it encourages everybody to set plans, each one more ambitious than the last, so that we can achieve our climate goals.
But still, there are countries who are not really waving the membership flag very well at the moment, aren't there?
Well, today is about showcasing best practice, and we hope that sort of other countries will sit up and take notice and accept the challenge.
Small island states on the front line of climate change like Barbados and the Maldives are pledging to be carbon neutral within 10 years, hoping to encourage the bigger industrialised economies they can and should travel faster to tackle climate change. Lisa Holland, Sky News.
Well, And this is not something that it is alive and colored. I just said the world leaders know they are pursuing this with speed. And she said, Afi November 1 to November 12, Glasgow, COP 26. Yes, our targets are almost set 5 years ago. No, almost quite na almost RPM. Now, she say, what the world leaders in there can say, we need to go way higher. If we say the issue, no, Yanko na yanhwe de yesua ene de this year no until last time no de yesua ye ene de yahwe no the agenda na ya set no and the agenda set by Laudato Si no 6 parts yahwe the 5 parts no and the yahwe the last part no the religious component ebe drive ni nyina no na ansa na yahwe the last part no ma me so enkai yen de ye ni nyina no yes ye kasa climate change na ye kan ho asem na the premise and the gina so ni nyina say the earth is common home for all asasi bia obia na tusubi and that is the first premise say ye kon one by one. Then the second one ye say there is a problem ye wo a threat a threaten yasasi ana bibi ohonomu a epese de o how bre yasasi na saade no climate and the climate no esesa ama baby a insuo ana ice wono ice nane baby nso a enka eni kwanse eja hyehye no eja hyehye ena baby nso a ka wo se hoye from no e hoye dry enti e wo se yetumi bua na ye reduce the climate the temperature no e wo se temperature no ba form na se temperature na amba form a ende na nipa ye tete so no ebe ye oha kese ama yen enti ewiase nyina no yenka ye humbom enti so already document na page 39 of Laudato Si no or say our common home is falling into serious disrepair enti ye last week ene who say the extent no global international universal ewiase nyina ena enya sa haw no ti se ewiase nyina na enya sa haw ne dia and it needs a global international response. And was say obia de ne ho jim. It was say everyone must be on board to fight a global threat to save our common home. And you know, ye hwe amanyofo any religions omo moji nyamindi everybody is coming on board said the beya we will fight a common enemy. Adofo nom senka yenim bibia krampa in the light of Bible prophecy. Said the papacy Revelation chapter 13 actually say to me be sorry ye sa papal institution no eba form na Bible say obe regain sa to me no na ne hu be ye wiase nyina wanwa na oni wiase nyina beto kese. Revelation chapter 17 or say all the kings of this world no they will give their power to the beast represented by the papacy or the nyamsumfo na akabom entino hu dwirisem alarming say all the world is being guarded on the platform of climate change to solve a global threat. Remember there should be something I was a career and a near me was a career na sa niema no asseti the agenda entino ye hwe the document sa Laudato Si no said the edasono ye heard the 5 chapters no and I'll just do a quick run through of the 5 chapters no now I heard the last chapter and ye be focus on no ti chapter 1 no ebusa say again na to yasase etisi what is happening to our common home and ye hu say pollution and global warming any sa enema no koso and ye hu say there was scientific consensus according to the document said there is a warming of the climatic system. In fact, so we read the science actual opinions are divided. Some people in the scientific community agree almost say there is nothing going on. Ebimunso agree almost say there is something going on. For the sake of the discussion, the paper no advances say there is solid scientific consensus agreeing now actually say there is global warming. and I insuo so affected insuo aye nom it is argue say are affected no and I can biodiversity say nipa nie emwa nie ene saa ne ma hodo ni nyina ye na yeti asase so no enso aye affected and I who said there is a decline in the quality of life and also aye affected and I say nipa kwanya wo se china asase so nanka niema bi koyie no things are not going that way because of climate change and I who say ye will be a friend say integral ecology na sa ecology no woni chidemu say a study of organisms omo ti environment bi mu a omo na interact entimfan say ye wo nua ye wo moa ye wo omo amonenam anwiemu ti say creeping and insects ye nyina no ye part of it and ye na ye interrelated and you know if there should be ancestor I was say taking charge of Sanya Manina. These are the technical scientific part of the issue. No, any about number 5. No, I will begin with the number 5 no, because number 5 no is very important. Number 5 no can say what we can and must do. A dear na ye bet to me. Na a dear na I was a year no. Advancing nema baby say we lack the culture. I was say to be raising a new way of living. Nasa new way of living no ye to me educating the pama obia ye on board said ye be confront the crisis no and the second one no and so I can say we lack the leadership ye here will be obedi ye name now be who say as they raise the issue say now very interesting because Pope Francis paper no tro you know or say ye need leader ye here will be obedi ye name owiase mo aka ye nyina bom na ya fight our common enemy. Na ye na ye heard the responses are Ubon say we are from penyinfo nyina so point back to Pope Francis say ono no ye leader and in the way you know they are raising an issue here it will point back to them na ebebe pepe say the Bible said the papacy will take leadership and that one because Revelation chapter 17 no or see we are seeing na do ontumi bema no all the kings of this world will give their power to the beast and eyadea enyadia enwanwa wo ho enti ye no na international response no any wo international order na sa international order no die ade no kan ye say interdependence obliges us to think of one world with a common plan enti ye na yen kan ye humbom fi say ye na na ya asase so na ye nyina yen fight with a common plan enti ye nya global consensus se nya global consensus a essential said ye be ya ebeboa yen to fight against your common enemy or your climate. The next one, Mama Yen Shenenson. Makasa Nyamebua, this year, November 1 to November 12, ye February Bista COP 26. A year Riasi in Penifoni Riasa Menekoshia to review the 5 years a year on climate change. You know. Now, one of the things by said 5 years ago, Jeriasi United to say young found for climate change. You know. As a need a near maybe idea for so and you know let's rethink it. Now you so well a bra document you know part of it you say and now Pope Francis ne suggest your demand we ask for any na you say we should have enforceable international agreements na urgently needed ye kase bibi ye enforceable e was say wunya tumi bia ye di be pia sa de no na ho sanctions na e wo ho in fact onwa kan say yen lay down mutually agreed base until last year no ye kan na me say etimubiem and now so no we should have global regulatory norms to impose obligations and prevent unacceptable actions until when you say be the open abaye but this is talking about say you bet to me I impose bibi also say one ye say ya ye be you say enti ni nyina no eyade a ehu hia na ewo say wiase mpanyifo nyina ekan hubom kai say Pope Francis a religious leader and all addressed we ama political leaders of the world na political leaders no abe enforce so kai say before say 1260 years paper to me eba bedi wiase nyina so no oni wiase amanyofo ne kabo mu to do the paper episode through Yasa Manufo, and exactly the same thing and we play with Bremo. And you know, this is a religious institution directing political, geopolitical institutions on how to do certain things. Now, when we now to enforce certain things, and the global regulatory norms, now you to impose obligation. Now, my underlining and your way, you can't say impose obligation. Just say you are told so say it was so you say, homework consequences. And the part of the consequences, no, the document talks about sanctions. They impose sanctions on national governments. And in here, to me, and yet, I was say, common goal. And I hear say another interesting thing is say agenda be a Pope Francis o pia to wiase so a wiase fo asombia no is in tandem with Roman Catholic social teachings. And he said the Roman Catholic institution no said the woman entia sebum womu gidi se enia be bin take shape no eno na womu e pia ma wiase so wiase political leaders omasom tunso kan edisem etreye 17 Revelation 17 and 18 or see Babylon ne ewiase ahemfo akọ make fornication omabodwaman a spiritual asem na yeken because the wine of the doctrines of the papacy, you know, part of which a climate change, you know, agenda, no, now no, they are sharing this with the world leaders. They are also drinking this wine to impose and to do a common thing. A part of among social teachings. Among ejitum dada. And a very, very important. Now I will say it is hard I say na ye to asunti ye can when we Friday no ye establish a legal framework ye give pursue nina. Here we come to the last point, another last chapter, another last part. The last part, you know, and now paper no lay out because already no Pope Francis making arguments before this, after this. Now say the real problem no and yet just technocratic problem. Say we have na temperature cost pollution, industrialization by we are saying no and I bring the pasha say yeah industries no say environment no or say it is more than that. A spiritual problem. And you know, say, ye di ebetumi bia na say problem na si betu pa na chi say yenya a spiritual dimension. Na sa spiritual dimension no eno na bema ade na so tu. And on this no, let's look at the last chapter. In the last chapter no, it talks about ecological education and spirituality. Na sa ecological education no document ne say yen educated wiase fo nyina school fo nyina ye educated the world ema womon tiase kwan ya ye befa so a ye be hwe ye environment di semika se be de ba form a na part of it no they talk about ecological conversion I was saying the panyan sakraye but interestingly in sakraya the panyan and then sakraya ye biblical conversion say why you born etia nyame with debi this is ecological conversion say your mother earth your sister earth ya abuse no she will say you new mindset your mother earth no ya abuse no I will say you new way of thinking na yes say ya dream free sade ne ho say the be ya abuse asasene biem na part of it no already page 159 of the document or can see so what then? Or so, what they all need is an ecological conversion, whereby the effects of our encounter with Jesus Christ become evident in their relationship with the world around them. Living our vocation to be protectors of God's handiwork is essential to a life of virtue. It is not an optional or a secondary aspect of our Christian experience. Part of Sadia Mukene Ayanokre. If we say, as Seventh-day Adventists, we believe in stewardship. Say ye stewards of Nyankopon and Yema or Jamayen, but baby away kono is different. It goes beyond that to something else. Now, how do we spiritually relate to the environment? You know, at the end of the day, ye better your environment ye. And now so interpersonal relationship. Nipa ye tia sasi so ye bet to me anya yonkofa. Not just say we have a yonkofa with yen as human beings. And you are yonkofa with our environment. To this, the Pope makes the case for Sunday rest. Says Sunday, is the day and meet all the needs. And when we talk about say abusive environment, we talk about say climate change, the one ultimate solution and no dear a beb why we are seeing a beb meeting all the needs. Say yes, say environment. Ana nipa nyema nko ye beka bom ana se nipa bi ho no mu a omunya wiase nim nyema ne bebre na ebi mu nya ebi entino omu sisi ote they are having an unfair share of nyema wo wiase no ni nyina no the answer should be spiritual, but the answer is Sunday. And here is how he makes the case for Sunday. Paper name yes that is 1 page 172 or say on Sunday our participation in the Eucharist has special importance. Remember, say, in Roman Catholic theology, Roman Catholics is the high point is Eucharist. Your friend say Mass, and I say a version of the yenye friend say ebi ewade didie because ewade didie no enna nipa ene nyame enya encounter na ewade didie no enna salvation ene sa ne mani nyina no is mediated, and the Eucharist is very important. And the all can say Sunday will help us to fix the economy. If we say Sunday no enna nipa nyina na ye participate most e was Eucharist no. And just as say Eucharist and mediate salvation no se pe bibia e be mediate bibia e be solve environmental crisis. We should look to Sunday, because Sunday and the Eucharist no combined will be a powerful force to help transform Nipa any environment. Then he makes the case. Now interestingly, or say Sunday like the Jewish Sabbath. Must say the Jewish Sabbath now say because a very interesting say a pejorative term and I will use a paper mean. There is no record in the Bible where they say Sabbath a Jewish Sabbath. Sabbath eye wonyankopon Sabbath in the 10 commandments no bra nya bedema Israel for no or can say me Sabbath. In fact in Ezekiel repeatedly onyameka say my Sabbath. There is no instance in the Bible where there is a case for Jewish Sabbath. By the way, that is how he presents it. But they all can say Sabbath no is meant to be a day a healing our relationships with God. Enti ye kase bibi nkoye wo wiase mu e de how ba Sunday like the Sabbath is a healing our relationship with the world. Sunday a healing our relationships with ourselves. Yen yankasa yen kani niema nkoye no Sunday a healing the relationships with ourselves. Sunday so a healing the relationships with others. And ultimately Sunday a healing our relationship with the world. Enti ye wo ecological crisis, pollution koso, temperature koso. Well, say a solution. We should look for a spiritual solution. Sunday is the ultimate solution because and not that yet the ultimate healer. And the Pope makes the case for Sunday. Then he continues to say Sunday and not that yet the day of the resurrection, the first day of the new creation. Remember, say in his mind, Sabbath is Sunday. Because you say, a common argument nipa bebre ameki. It was say the first day of new creation, whose first fruits are the laws raising humanity, the pledge of the final transfiguration of all created reality. Because this is very deep. If we are saying because of climate change, that is the argument. Temperature cause. But Yakai said, Sunday, the day of the resurrection, and the first day of the new creation, and ye pedabia, a pebwaya, sa eriasia no, a better transfigured, a better done, na yesanso enya no fufuro to say, ye restored Nidia. Then Sunday is the day. I pebwayen to reverse and never cause no to transfigure creation to the reality. I was an echo. na afei so no it also proclaims man's eternal rest in God. And that is also part of the omeki in the paper. Then what was what? Okay, say now who follow Ebra Pope Francis about US 2015. No, he also emphasized family. Actually, no, and also in a separate lecture. Family, because families here juma bebre ye nya kwan enhome enti we so ejuma enti even se wo peda ebeboa ma family bia enya hoto na family bia nkwadwuma. It is this same Sunday ye a day of relaxation, a day of festivity. And you know, we are working out people so much. He is making an appeal to Eriasi Sudifo, the political rulers. People are being worked out. They need rest. Which day? Yanko Sunday no. Because Sunday no a day of realization, a day of festivities. I was Eriasi energy. And he also advances this. And what the last part of Laudato Si, very interesting. The other one, no, I say Sunday, a protecting human action from becoming empty activism. It also prevents that unfettered greed and sense of isolation, which make us seek personal gain to the detriment of all else. Because capitalism and our consumerism are a part of our climate crisis. No. Wait turn yes a form near mafa and you know solution to climate change, you know, part of it a consumerism. You consume so much because of greed, and the more we consume, the more affected environment, you know, ye solution Sunday. Because Sunday don't ebe buaye ama ye who say greed and I say pesamin kuminyane phone fanny no enya dia eye papa enya dia was obi ahwehwe ono kwa de na yenwene afoforo nso ho na bra ye wura kosia de mu na ye nyina ye celebrate no na twinya adwe sisi e was say yes stop greed na yes we start thinking about others. And you know he also links it to that. The sixth say so rest, you know, opens our eyes to the larger picture and gives us renewed sensitivity to the rights of others. And you could see that yes Sunday no rest, you know, a be eba you the larger picture. Now the last point, page 173, Laudato Si. Or see, and so the day of rest, centered on the Eucharist, sheds its light, and as it shares its light on the whole week and motivates us to greater concern for nature and the poor. And he ends on this note, 173, say, sad day of rest, you know, yes, Sunday, no, centered in the Eucharist, no, say, you're concerned about nature. Now say, United Nations, any reactive war, so when you're concerned about nature, any nature getting out of control, now some agreement will say there should be a solution there. Me tomamo say a day of rest. I yes centered. I was a Eucharist, no, and no and the too high so na eno na motivate ye say you get you together for your concern for nature and the poor, no. And this is the spiritual side. And Laudato Si, advancing many things, but at the heart of Laudato Si, no, is Sunday. But it doesn't begin with Sunday. A by beyond the middle of it, is Sunday legislation, Sunday keeping. And he said, and whatever we have taught, said the last crisis, no, is centered on worship. Revelation chapter 13 and 14, no, a day of worship. It has said, Nyame Homeda are appointed to Nyame so Boade, and Nase Kosiadano, it is the same agenda. By this time, no, there should be a way that the world must be convinced to be on board. How do you convince the world? Let's take climate change. Now you can all these things, but at the heart of the document, no, it ends on the same note. Yes, Sunday, no. Now, this is the end of that document, you know. Na mame entwaso, na menka kwanya Niema bebre akoso no reflect say no say at the heart of the akoso no nyina no worship, at the heart no religion, at the heart no also. I will just look at some few documents. We are na mako the global response no to sa Laudato Si. And it's over here mantie anase afie twe mono April 1st 2020 New Boston Post na or Kenya maybe me can anyama secular world ne kwa ekeka fa ho na or ka bibi say at least one societal change resulting from the quarantine could do wonders to reinvigorate our national sense of family, faith, and community. Let's give serious thought to reinstating at least some of the time-honored Sunday closure laws, sort of a 1 day per week modified stay-at-home request. Such action would rededicate our society to a regular day of rest, family meals, civic associations, and religious observance. By rededicating each Sunday as a common day of rest, we will say that the life of America is much more than never pausing commerce and ever grinding bureaucracy. We will proclaim that the heart of the nation transcends consumerism and looms larger than even the biggest government. We would emphasize that the real value in a country comes not from its GNP or tax collections, but from families, faith, and basically, somebody drawing inference from coronavirus here by here, any whole lockdown, he's making a case for Sunday and appealing to Sunday closure laws, because a baby part to have rest. Nina a part of the agenda. So Sunday closure laws, your friend say blue laws, America, Yamea Duma, Yabehre, and also as a separate thing, a year already enshrined in some of our national laws. There was another article, and also an advocate say when earth demands Sabbath, learning from the coronavirus pandemic, just a yasasino, and no de climate change in this animal, and no na every day sa pandemic say cosy, and ye jidi say yasasino a here Sabbath. Na ebia coronavirus no ema yensu bibim free to advance that. And no there is this Jewish article where the author was also making a case. Says Sabbath no can be the answer to climate change. In fact, nipa bebre ho mo nyamindi. Omo ye secularists. Now they are also advancing from the secular perspective. Say by enforcing rest on Sundays, we can cut down carbon emission and it's hardening now to meet the global targets on climate change. The last article I'm best before say the global response, the Guardian way before Christ said Pope Francis was Laudato Si ama ewiase for 2009. This article appeared in the Guardian or phrase Slow Sunday, the simple solution to global warming. And very interesting because you read Laudato Si or can you be but at the heart Sunday. And now be article before say Pope Cradina in the beba. And all can say global warming no. The solution is simple. Sunday. The author no make case be na baby interesting and person make answer. As part of making the case, or say not long ago, Sunday used to be a day of rest, a day of spiritual renewal, a day for families to come together. But we have changed Sunday from a day of rest to a day of shopping, flying, and driving. However, in the context of excessive carbon dioxide emissions into the atmosphere, which are bringing catastrophic upheavals, we can and should restore Sunday to a day of Gaia, a day for the earth. There will be no great hardship in cutting down all non-essential and non-urgent use of fossil fuels for 1 day a week. We can easily close supermarkets, department stores, and petrol stations. We can reduce our mobility to the bare essentials and without harming the economy in any way. And these are confirm say the discussion say Sunday will be a day say ebebua wiase in the fight against global warming no adofodom enye something new. It has been there, but it is coming to the forefront. Sisiano the leaders of the world, no, they are not pushing that, but they are pushing the awareness and the need, no, but ultimately, no, it is at the heart of the solutions are ever. Now, Ebra paper way by we are say, and the paper was released. It was June 2015. No, what was the global response? And now, Kwame and we are say, so sa krataimo na mede sa global response no ebetra to na maposo enumredie no. The dikan pa no yenhwe United Nations. Yenum say United Nations a organization bi a ewiase for presidency na no makam ho abom. Said the be ya omo be advance enema ebebua ewiase nyina. Now the interesting thing is say before say Pope Francis release Laudato Si. June 2015, no, there was a meeting between the then United Nations Secretary, no, Ban Ki-moon, and Pope Francis. Now they held some meeting at Vatican. Now, before say I didn't be background, now on the United Nations General Secretary, no, or more had discussed it. Now there was some eligibility and no more discussion, and he said, April 28, 2015, a meeting because where there was this paper about out. Now your videos will be able to show the course was a meeting, and the paper no the United Nations for paper April 28, 2015. Saying the General Secretary met this morning with His Holiness Pope Francis on the margins of the workshop, Protect the Earth, Dignify Humanity. They had an extensive discussion on the issue of climate change. The Secretary General said he very much looked forward to the Pope's encyclical on the subject, which would act as a moral voice on the issue. Underline that statement, And Sana Pope Francis, Eddie Paper Webano, One Ban Ki-moon, General Secretary for United Nations, meeting, Vatican. Emma Ban Ki-moon can say, when him say, when him pa, now when him say, paper, Bano is gonna act as moral voice on the issue. Tie body or what voice say, or ni more can the can you tie ye henimu. I don't know, the Bible can say, to me, we say, ni wiasi sudifo, ebesa kabum. Now he will be at the forefront discussing Yema and taking things for wiasi for today. There is no need for further evidence. Things are unfolding. My member video on what happened on some meeting in the Vatican before say Pope Francis release Laudato Si no and to video no.
Honor again to have this audience with your holy. And visiting at this very important time for humanity. It is required that we take some global action, particularly for climate change and also yeah, you want to my prayer will not have any effect. Your prayer will bless me. Thank you.
Well, Miriam, very interesting. Unknown to many people, no. Before, say, June 2015, Pope Francis released Laudato Si, no. Now only UN General Secretary here. Emma UN General Secretary needed in common, say ye nimu na and was say ye taking actions on climate change. And it's a pope no say yen taking international actions are. And this was discussed behind scenes and Sana Erba. And Ban Ki-moon so a General Secretary for UN no or no so say we need a moral authority. Our news with name was which they recognize in this person, the papers, and they're very interesting. Okay, a bra paper way back out, way before say paper never out. Paper never out, what was the response from United Nations? United Nations, UN leaders react to Pope Francis' release of encyclical on climate and environment. Now, on my website, and I'm a fan information you free, the General Secretary welcomes the papal encyclical released today, the very same day Adiano was released, and this release also came out. Now, the Secretary General knows the encyclical's findings that there is a very solid scientific consensus showing significant warming of the climate system, and that most global warming in recent decades is mainly a result of human activity. The Secretary General reaffirms that humanity has a significant obligation to care for and protect our common home, the planet Earth, and to show solidarity with the poorest and most vulnerable members of society who are suffering from climate impact. The Secretary General therefore urges governments to place the global common good above national interests and to adopt an ambitious universal climate agreement in Paris this year. Why agenda na ye drive? United Nations agenda na ye drive. Ana Pope Francis na agenda na ye drive. Minianom nina kabum. The UN Secretary General ebra document iba no or say or eji ewiase for governments na say yenko hia na yenye ambitious plans to meet Laudato Si. Kai said part of Laudato Si plans nobody has protested a Sunday now we are pushing now they are silent on that, but they know say the ultimate by the and they are not forcing that, but it is leading somewhere. Enti ebra paper way back out and no na ema we are for 196 countries echo for me Paris Accord na eklemeka ho asem no enti to us General Secretary okanema bebre wo ho enti eyade a they responded favorably na enye ade a na enwanwa because they met and discussed it before this came to the fore. Enti religious entity or agenda, but Pope Francis did say our agenda a universal, and now only we are who are now on board an agreement with him. They are clasping hands to champion those agenda. What about the United States president? US said even before say we were out now ye man penny crampo he has made a case for this. Etimayenti and sana ye mama dear ye man penny or also can ye or man penny Obama a bra sa paper out Timayenti sa clip we.
2014 was the planet's warmest year on record. Now, 1 year doesn't make a trend, but this does. 14 of the 15 warmest years on record have all fallen in the first 15 years of this century. I've heard some folks try to dodge the evidence by saying they're not scientists, that we don't have enough information to act. Well, I'm not a scientist either. But you know what? I know a lot of really good scientists at NASA and at NOAA and at our major universities. And the best scientists in the world are all telling us that our activities are changing the climate. And if we don't act forcefully, we'll continue to see rising oceans, longer, hotter heat waves, dangerous droughts and floods, and massive disruptions that can trigger greater migration and conflict and hunger around the globe. The Pentagon says that climate change poses immediate risks to our national security. We should act like it. And that's why over the past 6 years, we've done more than ever to combat climate change, from the way we produce energy to the way we use it. That's why we've set aside more public lands and waters than any administration in history. And that's why I will not let this Congress endanger the health of our children by turning back the clock on our efforts. I am determined to make sure that American leadership drives international action. In Beijing, we made a historic announcement. The United States will double the pace at which we cut carbon pollution, and China committed for the first time to limiting their emissions. And because the world's two largest economies came together, other nations are now stepping up and offering hope that this year, the world will finally reach an agreement to protect the one planet we've got.
Well, say, say, Yaman Pennyfo, Kasa, a wodu, now here Asema, Yaman Penny, Ekanye, and your former president, Ekanya, and Yama Baby and San, our Kanya, and Fobo Munsimpa, Bako say, immediate risk to national security. Minim and Yama Bibri, but whatever this is, no, a so serious say, climate change, a pursue immediate risk to American national security. Another thing, Okai said, if we don't act forcefully, and you know whatever thing your man paying for, we are saying so to the phone paying for half in mind, you know, any joke. So force because a idea said in a kind document, you know, you want Nema Bibia, a woman, I was enforcing Nema Hodoina, and one thing you said was American leadership drives international action. And also a idea, your man penny that I can ye, Nipa Digi home say, I was see your actions are a bed driver. Now, we picture ye that's your man penny, our was he or no the THD. And a your man penny or buy or bambe chino or free sadiemo, and a your man penny or tea a chilena muhono no buy no see there be. I was semi-circle. First, they didn't see Swan or Koye, and they are on board trying to pursue. Now, 2015. A bra document no ba out no and Oman Penya no siso Obama on also a key statement, and there was a press release by the president on the Pope's encyclical. Now the also can or say, I welcome His Holiness Pope Francis's encyclical and deeply admire the Pope's decision to make the case clearly, powerfully, and with the full moral authority of his position for action on global climate change. To say, Your Holiness, I, Pope Francis, the all you know, may admire many jihon, na sa decision no, and the all you know, wamemwa da ho clearly, na powerfully, with full moral authority of his position. Ki omuna jitumu se, a badie or war moral authority a ye popui, or the leading we are say, on climate change, you know, or come what say, as Pope Francis so eloquently stated this morning, we have a profound responsibility to protect our children and our children's children from any oka and yama who do be brave woman. And now, Yaman Penika said, I look forward to discussing these issues with Pope Francis when he visits the White House in September. And in Afrina, Pope Francis ever visited US. And Obama say, oh, look forward, he said, Pope Uba, on anybody discussing more. And as we prepare for global climate negotiations in Paris this December, it is my hope that all world leaders and all God's children will reflect on Pope Francis's call to come together to care for our common home. Until December, where was released in June, till December, say we are still in Penifo next year, you bet Nasi, now some Pope Kano, ya Gwinihuye, na ya reflected. And it was resoundingly welcomed. Ewo Omanya Yetimu Imam Penny. And you know, Oko US House of Representatives. US House of Representatives no. Yawo Bibia your friend no. House of Representatives Sustainable Energy and Environment Coalition. Now, they also made a statement on the Pope's encyclical June 18, or release, Now, almost statement, almost say the time to act is now. The time to act on climate is now. And he only said, Yeshua Edism, Revelation chapter 13, you the relationship between papacy and America. And here is papacy setting an agenda. US president is excited about the agenda, and the Senate say the time to act on climate is now, and failure to do so will further damage the planet, its people, and our principles. Kaise, the planet, and a nipa woman and the principles, because a nyamana ebano ebifo biya, because Sunday, the case for Sunday, it's also for people. You be resty. Now you bet me family time. The agenda is very big. Now, my main end jump on the World Bank. You call Kaya December in Revelation chapter 13. Part of the end time coalition, commerce and asikasem. Because Bible cast over one tongue and now in Revelation 18 through the merchandise we are so. There is an economic aspect. And how was the response of the World Bank, also to paper, well, okay, kind of Guardian, Pope's climate change encyclical tells rich nation, pay your debt. Now, and also Emma, the president, now World Bank president Jim Yong Kim, say today's release should serve as a stark reminder to all of us on the intrinsic link between climate change and poverty. And now, they are beginning to link climate change, to almost everything, to poverty, because the Pope makes the case, the link between climate change and poverty. And we must now seize this narrow window of opportunity and embark on ambitious actions and policies to help protect people and the environment. And here you have the World Bank also coming in. Say, IMF. I will later talk about the IMF. And what about all the leaders? To can we say so President for a former United Nations General Assembly now. Pope Francis released document June 2015. December 2015, and all the leaders Asia and 196 leaders they took a decision on this. Now, Paris Climate Accord and now share the second phase afi Glasgow. Your friends COP26 may take it time to explain some of the things what's our Paris Climate Accord But for now, Mamin play a video for a summary an idea on Paris Climate Accord, part of the response that we as the president
The world is getting warmer. Even up here, it's being felt. Above Davos, indeed across the Alps, glaciers are in retreat. The International Monetary Fund's job is to spot the economic dangers that lie ahead. It believes that climate change is one of them, and it's calling for an urgent response.
But hold on, I'm playing the wrong video. You call IMF the team, but you hold on. I mean more. President said now, 2015 Paris Climate Accord and action
In November 2015, 197 countries came together in Paris and agreed to pursue efforts to limit the temperature increase on our planet to 1.5 degrees Celsius. The Climate Action Tracker monitors the climate commitments and actions of 36 countries, totaling roughly 80% of today's global greenhouse gas emissions. Here's the bad news. Those emissions are still rising and have already warmed the globe by 1.1 degrees Celsius. The tracker makes two problems clear. First, countries have not set emissions targets ambitious enough to reach the goals of the Paris Agreement. Even if every country hit their targets, the temperature would still increase by more than 2 degrees Celsius over the next 70 years and continue to rise into the 22nd century and beyond. Second, governments are simply not delivering even on their unambitious targets. Everything these 36 countries have done so far, and everything they are currently planning, will only slow the growth in emissions. We need to do more than that. To have a hope of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees, we need to cut global emissions in half by 2030 and get to net zero by 2050. Let's go through the numbers. Of the 36 countries analyzed, only 2 are taking enough action to restrain global warming to 1.5 degrees. The Gambia has pledged to reduce its emissions despite being one of the developing countries that has contributed least to the problem. And Morocco is building more and more solar power. Every other country is failing. 2020 is the year national governments were supposed to come together and strengthen their targets. So far, only a few have done so, while others have announced they're sticking with their existing insufficient targets. Now, some countries aren't too far behind the Gambia and Morocco, such as India and Kenya. But the countries with the most advanced economies, those with the greatest capacity to innovate and help others, are shirking their responsibilities to lead. The United States is currently withdrawing from the Paris Agreement. China shows promise. Its pledge to balance out its carbon emissions by 2060 could save the world as much as 0.3 degrees Celsius of global warming. But actions on the ground remain divided. China is the largest market for wind and solar power, but also for new coal-fired power plants. And the EU is taking steps in the right direction with its Green Deal to make member countries more sustainable. But this deal is still not enough for 1.5 degrees. So are there any signs of hope? One key measure is a country's willingness to clean up electricity. Clean power can enable other sectors to reduce or eliminate emissions. More than 50 countries, 30 regions, 160 cities, and 200 businesses have committed to 100% clean electricity. Denmark, Scotland, and the state of South Australia are almost there already, but much of the world still needs to commit to and accelerate this energy transition. There's more good news in the transportation sector. More than 20 countries, 5 regions, 50 cities, and 60 businesses have already committed to 100% emission-free cars, motorcycles, and buses. Norway is mandating the end of all sales of fossil fuel cars by 2025. Meanwhile, the U.S. is allowing companies to make cars that don't travel as far on a gallon of gas, rolling back fuel efficiency standards. Other sectors, such as steel and cement making or aviation and shipping, are even further behind and trickier to clean up. But some steel and cement companies are developing carbon-free production, and Norway and Scotland are targeting carbon-free short-haul flights. In November 2015, 197 countries came together in Paris and set targets to fight climate change. These targets were already insufficient to reach the stated goal of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And most are not on track to achieve even their own inadequate targets. We need more ambitious targets and much more ambitious actions. In the next decade, we need to transform key sectors of the global economy in order to reduce emissions. These changes will be difficult, but not impossible, because they will also bring enormous opportunities, like creating millions of jobs. And don't lose track of this key point. Such a transformation will also mean cleaner air and a safer, more stable climate for all.
Well, and this is kind of a summary of Paris climate action. Now, the world leaders right now, they are saying, whatever target be almost set, some nations, into an amount of home, but they now need to be more forceful. I will say because almost we are in a climate emergency. We kind of Friday, And this year they are meeting in November. Now proposals are how do a be person pushy any near mano a yadea who say you hear coronavirus no now you hear say am I call lockdown climate crisis no. So we scale and now compare coronavirus and climate change. Now say COVID-19 one climate change much more than no. And no bear 10. The seriousness bear 10. And Sebase almost the measures be bad. The measures are going to be much more stringent because the threat and no cause no much more than COVID-19. And the idea back. Me per se, as we play clips, I would want to confirm the yes, member clip will be every one prominent person. yebeti free na no some of the things America they are looking forward to push no. But na make IMF also you can say he who pays the piper called the tune will be a amount sika no won such the room. It World Bank, IMF, they are all on board. Say any mana papers e ba ye no na wiase leaders na ja tuma ye kan ho asem force no omo be yo mu nyina enti no for be 2 minutes ma you more IMF win so there from omo chief economist na ye nhwe eno so na mi wi am your two other clips be ani na confirm the air cost no the responses no mi wi na be the see for questions enti let's hold on for this.
The world is getting warmer. Even up here, it's being felt. Above Davos, indeed across the Alps, glaciers are in retreat. The International Monetary Fund's job is to spot the economic dangers that lie ahead. It believes that climate change is one of them, and it's calling for an urgent response.
Governments should do more. I think they have to recognize that this is not a can they can kick down the road. It is near and present danger for the global economy if it's not addressed.
What is the risk if the world doesn't respond?
We think of this as an existential problem to the world. So the risks are off the charts, I mean, compared to other kinds of risks that we think about.
What do you mean?
Well, there are...
Okay, and you know, now, because where IMF, World Economic Forum, now we are discussing, say, I don't know, a serious, say, the multi, you know. Now, you hear the Prince of Wales, Prince Charles. One also the Aoka, now also by who say the threat of global warming, and all these are world leaders who call the shots. The threat of global warming, no, much more than coronavirus. In fact, there were statements where these leaders are making to say you need to say the climate change is much more terrible and worse. Say than COVID-19. The Prince of Wales, Prince Charles, and so the on also on issue
Billions of people around the world are waiting and longing for concerted action to right the balance of this planet that we have so rashly disrupted. Millions of younger employees of countless companies and corporations are desperate for action, not more words.
No, we're still talking. Release this. Oh, yes.
Excuse me. Can I ask a question?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the midst of a crisis that is now, I hope, well understood. Global warming, climate change, and the devastating loss of biodiversity are the greatest threats humanity has ever faced.
Well, and Prince Charles and I'm watching canon. Sa young lady who say on the she is one of the young people who are all pushy and activism. Say all gadanko for na pushy for climate change. And it's all you'll be out following the Americans who are. We want to say, "Buy you na papa no need in common or you'll be or your common person." But why he's saying is say, "Yeah, Prince Charles, canon, and you know one can. These powerful men are among edited the reaction. What they are saying, you say, Ujidi say, coronavirus, edi bibia ba reaction, and the unyang hungry, the climate change de bano, yadia, and they are all saying, Sandema we say in order to do a name maybe or saying yes, I am son tentema." The Bibisa Babiasi. So, my last clip on Bessa Boy Nubreno, Prince Williams. Papa Yeti no, and Neba, and I said Prince Charles no, Neba any Prince William, Neba one Diana, Princess Diana, when you're the baby called Ewoye, and Timoma Yentia and Nona 1 minute, me fan rap wab na Yenge, Obiwa Sembisana, comment a bit much at it, at the Amaya or chat him, and I said, Don't come up.
Right on the top hill.
Hey, baby, wait.
The guy with the tattoo on his left forearm.
Our generation are clear. Together, we must protect and restore nature, clean our air, revive our oceans, build a waste-free world, and fix our climate. And we must strive to do all of this in a decade. If we achieve these goals, by 2030, our lives won't be worse, and we won't have to sacrifice everything we enjoy. Instead, the way we live will be healthier, cleaner, smarter, and better for all of us.
Well, and then you may Hana Medibesi. And the case I have laid out no, Nyamema, I am not saying something that work with and Yama me came na ye Nema air coso. Na me gidi say, Onyankopon, wabuayen with his word, a guide and a compass. We know all the Bible has said about the papacy. Na ye knew. And all these things are coming on live in college. The climate change, an agenda set by Pope Francis, Laudato Si, idea no beba out no ni UN for na kanwasem. And by yensono, womunina som, wiasi som. Na sisi de wiase kan say, whatever a agenda no, I will say ye genesis because and yes, the basic will wiase no. A betchen coronavirus no more than 10 times. Minim the beba we are say. But the year Kenya say, Jesus said, when these things begin to happen, lift up your eyes, your redemption draweth nigh. These things are not meant to scare you. By who say, in the prophetic stream of time or no, we are heading somewhere. Whatever we have believed is true, and we need to prepare for the coming of Christ and to let others know about the good news of Yesu and Yesu baby. Me de say say ebia no bi pese obusa question bia. Ye obi o ha man kan ho asem. World religions, Buddhists, Nkremofo, any safo ni nyina no, what are they doing? They are all in this. But I'll talk about that in another time. So the beya yebenya daji na yehwe. To we who say from every perspective, all the clouds are gathering into one thing. Na minister enti edankuma me di echirebe ma for ABS and bisebi ho.
Wow. Pastor, this is about 173 pages. Na said you see afa a break a crap at me abu bona personal. Wow. In fact, you have given us so much. It you ever say jai na ye etie for interactive. Ahana Pastor DSC. Say will be a questioner may hold you on kakra na yaje contribution and questions be and na section be and to me and cow trim ya now here and bebre and put free Friday the no egina eba mesre a brainy Mama Yembusa. Pastor, thank you once again for having done justice to Sabuk Nunafe Bible Moon prophecy said ye Bible pese ye tinye masino why in Sama Yamin Straw and for your best baby I will be and say YouTube crowd which me I test your question no honomo and also ye be kayama say ope say wo kasa so via Zoom and also bet me abem no akasa ope say opeja won san so ye be recognize o emu bia ope say wo de o mo a question bia ba no akwan no ho sabre ye da mo ase.
I'm patching more question. The question I will be trying to say. So there, Pastor, I'll go through a church near me be saying. Because maybe I say, I am come share and a bem, and now say, a nippers who in all they say, we are saying. Because yesterday, previously, in our church, come share, I say, a besi, the main come share, the bem to make my cassette. A main come share and a bem, and I say, Pope Francis, now, or they, to me, it is a serious.
Pastor Pacho, will take a question no. I have Pacho responded. That's it.
In the prophetic stream of time, no, God is sovereign and part of divine sovereignty, no, or say, Minna mefiti infitiasie eka ewiyasem. And you know, Yaminim, kwanya, the great controversy will play out and how it will end. And the Bible, no, Emma Yehu say, papers to me be sorry. Now, Osoria a beba form 537 and 538 AD. 2 minutes sorry, 1798. Pope Pius Yakofano etekeno prisoner de nekoye 2 minute ba form. And the same Bible say 2 minute obe sorry no and ebehwe no ebesa sorry na ne ho beye wiase fuo nyina wanwa na wiase ahemfo nyina ne beto kese na wo modi won tumi ama no enti no nyame efiti ase ka se sa na awiase no ebeko. It's part of divine sovereignty. And until the end, Rebecca said, history is in the hands of God. We don't have to be afraid. But, and yet for us to say, Yemfa Yensa Engu Yebo, na Yentina Hose, and the besi derby. Trust them, any deem commission, Ekani maybe say, as part of the great controversy, though, we have been privileged to know this. Said the Beyan call phobia womunim the Ecosono. Yeni Ebekachla almost say, see this in the Ecoso. Enti hwehwenyame se ani se na ekoso enti don't buy into enyama ye pushino demom no hwehwenyame na fa ho nyina se nyame ase emfa wo ho nyina nkɔhye enyembe bi mu a ede obekɔ se yie mu demom no hwehwenyame na fa ho nyina akɔhye wo nyame mu na worship nyame nko a ti the end time conflict dey worship when na beso no Sunday anase Saturday wo nyame eni de waka ananipa Tinyame de wakase bebe musa na de ntia ye privilege to know ne say yenso ye besiesie ho na yama foforo nso ehu. There were so many people ebikwanpo leaders in countries, presidents, but they have no idea what they are doing. Some people only think about these things in terms of sustainable development. I will say in terms of how do we avoid pollution, but the issues are deeper than that. And yes, Naminim na officer when in the history when you quite the Yemen Nabeko, but a hono ye issue say or say yen mun kase Babylon is fallen. Babylon is fallen. Or ni wiasia himfuna ni wiasi religions na kabom, and they are pushing a man-made agenda. Let the world be warned to know their echoes. Said they will run to Jesus and be on the side of the truth. Ayenso yenimono. I want you to stay in the truth. I am fire one kwankofra and maybe a because say you. TB was our question.
Yo, Pastor Daspa, even though blue laws no any specifically baby a be wo ya no pese what Pierre is to say one of the sessions no ye be ka ho asempa no be can be dia confirm impo yenye nuru ho no kra Dear best brother Kismet, can you push that comment through for us? Okay, commenter or de bano any obusa said sa Sunday law no Kismet Eddie Abaso wow share with YouTube no behu say o share your screen a studio one so I'll be who was it Sunday law no crown no what is say already no crown no state be to say Pennsylvania or even though specific but this is to confirm say nipan be 18 who says some of these things say what is your comment on this before cry bia you say the treatise our topic in daddy do
idea Sunday laws have been in America for many years, many years. Even before say SDA Krabeba, not Sunday laws ever. The Puritans won't say Puritans a free Europe, a back room has say be found as some of the colonists no, so more running away from religious persecution. No, they came with the idea of blue laws. Sunday laws. Now, blue laws, no, they were reason here for speculative when blue laws. To mo yemra hodo bebre was case in fact, Virginia, any quiet Timui, any almost now, and ti ewo honom. Eye kakran na states be sure say they will fight against it. Now obo ye furo, but in 1961 no, a Supreme Court by Supreme Court of Crown Pono, womo agree in favor say a constitutional. Enti omo a na omo pese omo argue say enye constitutional yegin free hono the Supreme Court judge omo opinion your friend say Warren or see there be constitutional enti ewo honom na nyame ya domo a a different lecture me pese ye no so yehwe ehun say these things are not we may not be aware but these things are already there and na niema ekeka bom meba ne bedu bebi o say no they are not far fetched. They are around us. Enti yami aduma ye bekoso.
Yeah, that's part here. They say blue laws no dear no be anti. And net ye na ya ka ho asem no any Friday dey na so be your question obetimi abem. Eba cha okoso.
Looking at the radical changes, Kutara, Omata, all over the places. Because for the past 50, 60 years, we are in so many tired areas in the whole world. We say, we are black tea, absolutely heat, and we are generating. And we say, sir, a normal and global warming.
Pastor, question I say a chireno question na nka say ba na akofom kakra obetumi aben wa fidie no na wa ma ne so kakra bi e pa cho.
Okay, the matter is I'm very clear. Also, countries be bria that a lot of places to say parking lots to say roads that will be on matter be brave. Okay, when you compare the 100 years and as 60 years ago, it wasn't like that. But, you could see, sir, I don't know the time, some absorb heat. It is a global Caribbean, it may generate heat. I would say it's a known part of global warming.
Okay, but I mean that's it. The key issue, no, it's not even about say global warming. True and true. In fact, the key issue, no, so really like that here, baby free, any baby a kobe. Or can pollution air coso, or can we are air coso. By document it ends with Sunday as the solution. And as we look at these things, no, from a prophetical perspective, no, and from a biblical perspective, no, all these factors there are a lot of interplay. But the question is, if one of these things, say they are talking about a whole lot. Say, Pope Francis is leading out, the world is coming on board. You will always say, but there is a real agenda. Who say the real agenda no worship. And these things are heading there. And we are not disputing, say, and generate heat. We are not disputing that. But what we are saying is say, it is more than diamokano. There is a religious component. In fact, Yale, Yale, or more center for ecological studies. And Harvard, Princeton, a brain, I couldn't pull all these documents. Nah, women have bought into the idea, say, the issue of climate change, said the Pope Francis can end the quoting, said the Pope Francis can spiritual. And yet just say he to be possible. And the ultimate solution, moral and spiritual. And that is where we are heading. Say, as Adventists, any knowing the cross and any the question, that is where and MBT the road. Say, eventually, that is the ultimate thing and echo. And it doesn't dispute, say, Ebia, Sanya Manobet me, Ama, he tabaso. No, we are not denying that.
Very well said, Pastor. Very well said. Kismet, Eddie. And I say, if or no penny for a chef, the pastor came in our hormone, so share post now, gets me the actual hormone. I'll call her between every this idea we know. I said, the pastor kind or encourage you, say, you would do a being quite in an yenfa book no na. And I said, woman, now Pope Nitroy and yen kind a boy, I may act Yamane Cosnasi. So be a questioner and now commenter, obey to me at also Eddie Abai. Yo, Pastor, say a bra, yeah.
My question.
Bachokoso.
My question is regarding a presentation of Pastor Eddie Amayan. Looking at time of COVID vaccine by Anthony, all sort of conspiracy theories going around them. How do we avoid? And I agree with Pastor because the CNN presentation, because Bill Gates was also saying the same thing on 60 Minutes, and the CA. May say, how do we avoid the habit of turning this biblical solid truth into a conspiracy theory? Because the answer, okay, yeah, there's also conspiracy. It should be anti-Asia. How can we make it more plainer so that it doesn't become some form of conspiracy? Because coronavirus vaccine, there has been a lot of media lashing against the Adventists. The Blaze Crowdy publication to her lashing against Seventh-day Adventists in Yema County. How can we avoid making it sound like a conspiratorial sort of thing?
Yeah, Pastor M says, I will take a question now. Yes, these have been some of the things yeah, can't want some just say a bit more train see the Bible work. So in fact last week Rani can't want some say when the day next to godliness ne sanya ma way say na the opening ebusa no wait me first now again no why emphasize the reason it here some of these things in the Bible need to for say yet to me and why if we who here say you did the such as the OSCA.
Concept, yeah, because a conspiracy theory, the way I almost define conspiracy, no, I just say be because of by a DCA.
Exactly.
And Obia cancer DNA coso. And Basia, Ebiana be because of ye DCA. And I say, or more Basia, or more reason to your model, ye baum per se. And now people begin to speculate, say, and you say, be a way their cost, maybe a way their cost, and it's animal. When your conspiracy theory, we know the Vatican, the papacy, Bible account oneself. Two, we know say the issue of air cosono and the issue of worship. It may not look like it, but say we have to stay with the word. Bible no the say we are seeing regardless of the obedience, the final conflict we are seeing your worship, who you will serve. And I didn't say Sabbath is going to be the place that ever contended. People don't believe it. But I'll tell you, say, Biblia is pointing to that. We are coming from the perspective of the Bible Naka. And what we are saying is, say, are we seeing manifestations? And Anima ethical bomb are pointing to confirm, say, whatever we have believed to be true. And we look at climate change, and we look at Nadato Sea, People encyclicals, the last major significant papal encyclical out on the Sabbath was 1998. John Paul II, Dies Domini. He wrote about the Sabbath, 1998. It was addressed to the faithful. This time round, Laudato Si still addressed not only to Omoye Eyifo, but this time round, it's been addressed to Ewiasi nyinaa. And I walk idea Ewiasi nyinaa kabo fighting. Eka ho asem na o keka the ono so the version we are seeing also buy into they are pushing these things. Now the one way interesting for us, you say when you read this document, it ends on what we have always believed: worship. The beginning said to avoid conspiracy. No, let's stick with the word.
Yes.
The trust them say trust them say by trust them. No, we know who the purpose is. By trust them, no, you have an agenda. And a nema or no, and a Yusua, they confirm say whatever we are believing, no, he is saying it. And he is saying it, and he is now telling the world, say, do this. And we have always believed that. And this is true. I think says only will be share. Let's take with the word and confirm the word not canon with the air cost where a confirmation say, and by no press, I said the GD in the prayer.
Absolutely.
Also.
Absolutely. Dr. Frepong, I bet you one question.
Yeah, they're not watching my the kind of similar to the watching a kind. I think say we are blessed because the Bible only try and say this study, takes me back to 1 Chronicles 12:32. Or say Issachar Bushum talked about the sons of Issachar, who knew the signs of the times and what Israel ought to do. Mejidi say Baba church who say every moon there'll be a Sunday law. We are wondering how is it even possible? And I think that this lesson is just pointed out to Bibia El Koswa. On the surface, the Papa will be and the people that I believe are genuinely involved pursuing this. But now the first part tied to the Bwache. We also need to be careful so that's why I said the Bible no church and names it a Sunday law moon. We should not say the idea of global warming is just a conspiracy. The main goal no say Sunday law beba. And that was the part that I be a change into saying, yes, a bit me creative problem. Say there's no global warming. People go to the other side and say there's nothing that is showing climate, we are saying it's but ocean is a cabo moon, one say undertones will be a tre. Yamea can say ye independent or boy in Subaso and Sesu. Any one just as this, ye may be a mamma, any new, any issue, a money, a day, a Edu here ever. Jenny between our home. Saying one of the things I'm say, okay, one solution soon said. I think that could be this one. Any Yamahudo factories, how do you know? I know, but see, carbon dioxide emission, who do so I'm a global warming and swati. A dabaya. And then so that's my first point. My second point, ASA, I don't want us to leave this lesson, maybe all of us understand and say, the one and only thing I believe is Sunday law, global warming, a climate change, America. There are several things that can happen, but at the same time, I can say, that some of these things are so being church you say what you say something that is ordinarily happening in the world. And all try and say to say Isakama. They know the signs of the times and what Israel ought to do. Brian except boy and you yes, you. And Mania again, can say I said, and as some intimate man, there are certain things that are happening that will tell us, say, yes, sound your money in a bit to me about finally, I'm also going to say, it's not necessarily say the right, it's not necessarily say, the Becca for Sunday law is just climate change to oneself. other things will come into play and make it easy for the entire world to see, say, maybe the solution to this problem, no, say, you better rest on a day. We said the solution to climate change. On proposal, say, the emissions are cutting on one big solution. So, no, say, between I am right, between I am forced. But I'm forced on a Sabbath. A day of rest, a bear Sunday, a quantity on your dia or the Sabbath.
Yo, Dr. Frimpong, just before Pastor Obebemuno, this is why this platform has been created. Now, the GDA said, Pastor Bemaye, a rundown of some of the things you expected. Tina, yes, Repa said, a Brian Shas, said, in fact, yeah, but to me, some of these things now. Which are all connected to something somewhere, and this is the revelation. Pastor, I don't want to take so much from you as far as responding to this is concerned.
Yeah, me that Dr. Repoise me any question Pastor Okwajimai and by ni na good because a buama a clarify and near my one way I dream people see what I'm not saying.
Yep.
And you know, Pastor Okwajimai say I'm not denying climate change, and as I'm not denying say be a heat will cause road. But said yeah, canon. We are just looking at the trajectory. And at the Dr. Frimpong also kind you know, I thank him for also bringing that dimension because a multiplicity of factors.
Yeah.
One of these factors is climate change. There were other factors. Yeah. And you know, we will look at all these factors and converge on something we have believed. In fact, we said the great research leading to discussions via air cost world's economies. Even education, any certain new educational goals, and you know, a multiplicity of factors are play out leading to maybe a year community. I thank them for also bringing in. Said the baby boy, you know, na young yes, climate change in Kwana, Ecofa Sunday rubber. The issues are deeper, they are more than that. This is just one of the factors. Coswell.
Yeah, that's it, Pastor. I'm say what my son say, the nutrient crampon here, a bit made deceive, and now said, and now Casse. To be at the panel corner, the Bonyumana Batahon, Nayana Bonyuman crying, you know, cry chain, Papa, Yehun. Yet we wish, said, we have more time. Obi Oha, Mose Monte, and Ewo Zoom, but I'm say Zoom there. Once a team interacting the Zoom, ye collect. So go how on tea and car. Yes, sir, I'm direct to a moment your Zoom, your YouTube channel, Honomo, how they'll be on bit me at it. But so being tea, I be on one and check the computer settings because it mean or it mean your response. Said Dr. Frimpong can no more say any stress Zoom no engagement. We may not have control to on call a Zoom. Pastor, you see, I said, there's so much. Nyamima said, Yebehuna said, Dr. Frimpong go to free breast so some woman. There are so many of them. And we say, DC. Sir, your best will be your last point to be your 5 minutes. A bit maybe bear mubako add your question. Now you are my pastor at Bonyama Toffa. And I looking ahead, you know, on quenching your appetite, said you be you be see I share you bet me as next time near betty. But you be more crying for so will be our comment to be an question. Okay. Okay, it been some PA or YouTube yet. And your pastor, your best row. Obi Baswada. Okay, and your pastor, your best row now. A Brenner, so a Brenner, a Brenner as Sansia. Yes, so Bonitofa, any dinner, my year coffee. And then now they share your dream. And what should we expect going forward?
Adam Dasi, say Peter Kasembi, or see, we have a more sure word of prophecy. And then, we may not be able to know exactly all the dots and all the I's. But at least a be more a Honda home I who say, Ampa, a confirm say, the Nimbia and the correct. And you know, make us say, the solution to the end time crisis is Bebano, Christ. Obi a oti Yesu mu na oti Yesu na asibia no does not need to be afraid of the coming crisis. Christ has promised to shelter his children. These things are being studied to generate joy and happiness. Said ya yebi beje say yewura de na yagena dino obeba na ema yensa hotoso no. Esan so ye warning because Peter ma ye warning bi. Because it's a munim sa nema we say nyina and what manner of person ought you to be. And you know, you didn't say, Sanya, na confirm Yamia Semoa, and they will say, Yahweh Bravo ye, if we say Yamia Semi and Ukwe. The apostle answer say, let's share what we know with others. And he comes a Kasembi. Or Sinema Yenimuno, say, ye train my neighbor, now you catch them call for say, Namin say, we be banner may catch a while, or say it will not make any impact. Now you're too late. And yes, a young share conspiracy theories. Yes. Let us share the Bible with them. Let us share the Bible's end time scenario with them. The papacy, Bible account was them. The rising of the papacy account was them. Only we are saying him for nabe kabum account was them. Let us share with them. Now, omuhu said the Spirit of God will be impressed on their hearts. Now they will make decisions for Christ. And you know, and then last day. Now, way forward. Nyamebua memenda the beka ho asem ye the actual ecological crisis. Bible can was Revelation chapter 11 verse 18. Or say, or things so no tossons no near course no. Or say God is going to destroy those who destroy the earth. When you miss what best say one more Mosasasi, who are those who are destroying the earth? The Bible can be destroy the earth. What does it mean? And you know, maybe that we will talk about that. Friday, you better the blue laws. Now you say, and just something that just to open our eyes for those of us who are not aware, say, your friend is a common laws and now blue laws. They are already written and enshrined in Yamuma Bibremo. It is a basse from that angle, so no, ye pushy Sunday legislation. And yet that in you, a honum, it is Friday, ye behe sa and yamanin so. Na nina ni yadia ebeboye to confirm our faith in what we know.
Yo, Pastor Dasipad, say no nana yenuane comment say Pennsylvania heya crowd sa what say ebio Friday the ebe yenu Pastor Besro na addition nyina no wa bompaya ma no atu nyame ma ahye wonyame ensa ebio ha ye tini sei nyina no na edi fear and by mu fear no so everywhere na magiri a ewo nyame mu na ekofo ti e say esrew na bompa ye die nyina hye nyame nsa ebra ye ti ni say senia yakoma ebetumi asom wo do a ye woma wo nyame ani city a eso say ye mu ti e esrew wie na wo hye adwumade ni so anyina amaye na ye de aba ewiye.
Okay, ye bompa ye nyame ni abanka si anwumre ye da wase. You know, as I say, history is in your hands. You know, as I say, when I fiti in fitiasia and I can read yasem. I am pa and yama okay in our bem if we say we radu in yankopon. You know, as I say, one by you who said you will intervene in history. Now, one kasa will blink and yama air costu now to closure. At the time when Nipa ebefase obefa history into their hands and do their own things, you know. Obama we are seeing them who say you are the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And you may yet was say, there was a confirm through Niama Air Cosui, say, ye G would ye know, we did not make a mistake. To the Gala be and Tanta, and Yamukra will hope. Yen Tanta, no Quasama, Trosama dan the D a no cre. Again Tanta, mean free home, and I'm in twas one cream. And you may know you are confirming, say, I am passe. There were many ways I was in baby more, most of which were your name. But I create a what being watching my young say and power some yellow cray. It won't pay us your say, my dear, ye need more yellow quasima was the mono, ye near for front chair. ebesiesie okrabo brofo bi a wɔn nso wɔn nim nneɛma a ɛrekokɔ soɔ na siesie wɔn ama ɔgye da no yɛn nso no ma yɛmfa yɛni nsiw so yɛbɔ brɛ bi anaa suban bi anaa yɛwɔ tibea bi a ɛyɛ ɔsɛyɛ kwan a ma nneɛma wei no mmɔ yɛn kɔkɔ na yɛmfa yɛn ho naa ɛntɔ so yɛmfa yɛn ho mbataw ɛda wase sɛ wasɛm yɛ nokorɛ na watwe deɛ ho hyɛ nsa mpaeɛ ne yɛasɛm ka nyinaa yɛ sɛ fa nsa to yɛn so yɛn so a yɛn ho mba sɛm biara kɔpem sɛ yɛbɛsɛ ahyia bia mu Yesu din mu nti amen.
Amen. Nyamemba efiada 7:30. Yɛsɛ time no so 7:30. Yɛbɛhyia mu yɛne wɔsɔfo nyame nhyira yɛ wɔ Yesu din mu. Amen. Yɛde adwumadie no aba wieyɛ. Fanya me